you came across my consciousness on this day off my operating table with my now good friends Phil and Jack, and they were interviewing
Uh,
you. And your story with metabolic health is absolutely amazing. And there's so many different things that you have an interest in that I really like learning about, like stoicism and chess and all those things. And you've written this amazing book, which I want to talk to you today. But I would really like to start with your journey into kind of like the medical health world, not the medical, the metabolic health world.
yeah.
Yeah, the
I'm
metabolic. Yeah, so it seems like, you're during your career, you were doing what you were doing, kind of following the standard advice, but at some point, getting some labs done or something, it seems like you started to kind of learn more about metabolic health, and I'd love to hear that story.
yeah. So I'll take you like all the way back to the beginning on how my interest in this got started. So once upon a time, wow, at this point, just thinking about where I lived, that's 15, 17 years ago. 17 years ago, I had a when I was just learning and getting into fighting, I also did some MMA. Had to have two official MMA fights as an amateur MMA matches, lost them both, one by chokeout, one by points. But the way, I'm short, or at least short for a heavyweight fighter in boxing or MMA. The difference is that in MMA you can go to the ground, and that makes a big difference in what you got to consider. So I said I'm not going to be a heavyweight. I'm going to be a light heavyweight, which I believe in MMA is 220 is 205. In boxing, light heavyweight is 178 to 199 or 200. No, 178 to 190. Okay, that's light heavyweight. Anyhow, I was walking around at like 2:30, and I dreaded cutting weight because I didn't want to restrict my eating in general, but I knew there was just no way I was going to be able to do this. On top of that, for an added motivation, it was contracted at 205. So I looked, how can I lose this weight and not lose my strength? And I discovered the ketogenic diet through this. And this was back before keto was like super popular. I just tried it out because I said, okay, like I'm walking through the science. I'm like, all right, the way it was explained, and I said, okay, this makes sense, and it worked. I mean, it worked really well. And I was a little confused at the time because I'm like, I'm in great shape, I'm super healthy. Why the hell am I? Why is my cholesterol sky high? But I would learn later like why that happens. And so from there, I just got really interested in the whole metabolic angle. I did not fight light heavy, so I never had to really worry about cutting again. But over time, I built up more and more knowledge and got more and more interested in making sure I was optimally healthy, especially when I got sober. It'll be 12 years I've been sober, no alcohol, no nothing. Well, I mean, I drink caffeine, but like some people are pedantic about that, but I'll throw that out there. Um, so over time, it was just like, okay, I have this wonderful body. Let me make sure I can be healthy as long as possible. And then I got hip to the idea that like cancer is more an energy metabolism idea by Dr. Thomas Siegfried. And so I read his books and see his talks, and that leads me down the path of understanding more about the role of sugar in our bodies. And to be clear, I'm not that guy that thinks you don't need sugar. I think we were clearly designed for carbohydrates, but we have to make sure, when we talk about that, we're being very clear here, because this is where people get all in the weeds about this stuff, and the arguments start. It's not that you don't need carbohydrates or do need carbohydrates. Neither one. It's the refined carbs where the fiber's been removed, and your sugars, your starches, or not starches, your sugars, your flours, any of your processed snack foods, pretty much anything that what's the old saying, right? Shop around the edge of the grocery store. Anything that doesn't go bad, you don't want to eat. Okay, and so I set out on just a goal many years ago to be as metabolically healthy, because I figured that if I could control that, that would eliminate the stuff that would take me out that I couldn't that's chronic disease or runs downstream of chronic disease. So by making sure I'm metabolically healthy. I don't have to worry about hypertension. I don't have to worry about diabetes. I don't have to worry about high blood pressure. And by extension, I don't have to worry about a stroke or a heart attack. I don't have to worry about, well, there's some genetics that play with this, but I don't have to worry about the dementia thing either. I'm controlling the health. I'm controlling my health as much as I can by making sure I'm really smart about what I put in my body and then how I train. And this is or how I exercise. Because for a while it was just exercise. It turned into training when I was training, and then took some time off just exercise, not training. But pretty much TLDR, the way I understand it and the way I try to live, is that our bodies seem to have a limit on what it can do with energy storage, and if you exceed that, then I'm the best analogy I can think of is if you tried to put too much energy into a battery. I guess this is what a short is like, actually. If you want to like use some of this physics I studied. It's effectively what happens with a short. The difference is that when we short out, and for those who don't know, a short is when you draw too much current through a wire that can't handle it, so the wire burns out. Well, to keep it from burning out, we have fail safes in place, circuit breakers, fuse boxes, and it looks like humans don't really seem to have that. And so instead we all we go haywire. But it looks like if you can keep the energy flux high, this is why this is my theory, and this is completely it's as scientific as one who actually understands and was trained in science can speak on without having an advanced degree. So take it where it's from, and someone who's living it. But my operating theory, and the one I plan and do everything around, is that I need to keep my energy flux constant. That means if I know I'm going to be sedentary for whatever reason, like the past 2 weeks working on all this stuff with my book, that means that I don't need to eat that much. And what I do need to eat, you saw when we got on, eating a banana for lunch, two bananas actually. That's the second one, and I'll have some meat for dinner tonight. But I gotta lay off. My son likes going to get ice cream. I can't really do the ice cream right now, and that's kind of how I live. But when I'm in the but when we're normal activity, walking every day, I can up the calories a little bit. Now I still want to be smart with them because not I'm sure I know for sure that the role fiber plays in helping your body deal with the glycemic load. So I'll have a cookie occasionally, but it's not a regular thing. Now, when I'm going to the gym like 4 or 5 days a week, and running the other and running four, oh, I can eat almost anything, but I still want to have high quality. I just got to eat more of it because them processed foods are a real effort. I wish people really understood. You know, the two big destroyers right now of our health, the ultra processed carbohydrates. I won't even say the ultra processed food because like some of that stuff. Look, man, I'm I, I'm fine with my sardines coming in the can. People forget that's processed, and to a degree, depending on who you ask, that could be considered ultra processed. But in the pure sense, it's definitely a processed food. But most of it is not a problem. The real problem is the high fructose corn syrup. Anything with the fiber removed from it, so white sugar, your Doritos and all that. You got to cut that stuff out. And to a lesser degree, I'm not one of those guys who thinks seed oils are the devil. I definitely think you should limit them if as possible, as much as possible. But as I understand, the big problem with seed oil was the AGEs, the glycation end products. The bigger issue is really the sugar, and not specifically, well, the sugar and how it affects your what is that dang thing, um when you that's why we look at the hemoglobin A1C, because that's right, because the red blood cells become glycated, and they can't really do their job. So that's my theory and my approach to all of this in a nutshell. Keep my energy flux high when I know I'm going to be low energy. And unfortunately, I have a good bit of muscle in me, so that's another big thing people need. If you're not going to be able to run, at least put the muscle on because you're going to lose it as you get older, or at the very least, it's going to be harder to put on and take more energy to maintain. So you should put on as much as you can. And I'm a bit lucky in that regard. When I was much younger, I played high school football and a small amount of college, but I was like 255, man. And
Wow.
not a fat 255. I was benching 365, 370, squatting like 550, running a 4.7. Like I was not um a sloppy 255. But because I had all that muscle in my body, even when I lost it, when I got smaller for fighting or for whatever reason, because right now I'm like 210. Uh
Nice.
it's still like my body responds very well to weight training to the point where I have to be careful because I'm staying under a certain weight for fighting.